The moment Ethan O'Connor's private jet landed on the tarmac, his phone erupted with messages from Marcus, all variations of the same theme. "Your single days are numbered, my friend." Ethan sighed, pocketing his phone without responding. At 32, he had built Horizon Pharmaceuticals into a $10 billion empire. But according to his best friend, his personal life was a wasteland that needed immediate cultivation. Ethan stepped out into the crisp autumn air of Boston, where his driver waited to take him to his penthouse. After 3 weeks in Switzerland finalizing a major acquisition, he'd hoped for a quiet weekend. Marcus clearly had other plans. As if summoned by thought alone, his phone rang. "You're ignoring my texts," Marcus said without preamble. "I just landed." "Give me a minute to breathe American air again. Breathing is overrated. Dating is essential. I've arranged a double date for tomorrow night." Ethan pinched the bridge of his nose. "I didn't agree to this. Which is why I didn't ask. 8 o'clock, Mason Laurent." "Claire's bringing her friend Vanessa. She's smart, gorgeous, and most importantly, doesn't know you're worth billions." "That's because you're not telling her, right?" Ethan's voice hardened. The last 3 women Marcus had introduced him to had Googled him before appetizers arrived. "Scout's honor, she thinks you're just a regular guy who works in pharmaceuticals." "I am a regular guy who works in pharmaceuticals. Who happens to own the company and 5 others. Details. Ethan watched the Boston skyline approach through the car window. "Fine. 1 dinner. But if she mentions my net worth, I'm leaving and you're paying the bill. Deal." "And Ethan, wear something that doesn't scream I could buy this restaurant on my lunch break." When the call ended, Ethan closed his eyes briefly. At what point had his success become his identity? He had everything except what Marcus insisted he needed most: someone to share it with. Mia Nelson hurried through her apartment door, arms loaded with groceries, to find her roommate Vanessa frowning at her closet contents. "Help me," Vanessa pleaded. "I have that double date tomorrow, and nothing says casual yet sophisticated potential girlfriend material." Mia set down her bags and peered at the clothing explosion. "What happened to the blue dress you wore to that gallery opening? Too artsy." "Claire says this guy works in pharmaceuticals." "I need to look intelligent but not intimidating." Mia laughed. "You are intelligent." "I know, but men get weird about dating women smarter than them." "Then maybe they're not worth dating," Mia said, unpacking vegetables into their small refrigerator. As a pediatric nurse, she had little patience for fragile male egos. Vanessa flopped onto the couch. "Easy for you to say. You're not trying to date in this wasteland." "That's because I'm focusing on my career right now." Mia had just been promoted to charge nurse on the pediatric oncology floor at Boston Children's Hospital. Dating was a luxury her schedule rarely permitted. "Well, Claire says her boyfriend's friend is super nice and normal. Apparently, he just got back from a business trip in Europe." "Fancy," Mia said, sorting through her mail. "Not really. Just a regular guy with a regular job. Claire's only met him a few times, but Marcus swears he's great." Mia smiled at her roommate's enthusiasm. Vanessa cycled through potential boyfriends with alarming regularity, always convinced the next one would be the one. "I hope it works out. I'm on night shift tomorrow, so I'll be sleeping when you get home." "You work too hard," Vanessa said, returning to her closet dilemma. Mia shrugged. "I love my job." What she didn't say was that it filled the spaces that might otherwise be occupied by loneliness. Watching children fight for their lives put her own romantic disappointments into sharp perspective. "The burgundy wrap dress," she called out, heading to her room. "With those ankle boots I lent you last month that you still haven't returned." Vanessa's delighted gasp told her the fashion crisis was averted. Ethan arrived at Mason Laurent at precisely 8 o'clock. He spotted Marcus and a blonde woman he assumed was Claire at a corner table. The restaurant was elegant without being ostentatious, with soft lighting and tables spaced generously for privacy. "Look who finally decided to rejoin society." Marcus stood to greet him with a slap on the back. "Ethan, this is Claire and this is Vanessa." The other woman, presumably his date, offered a perfectly manicured hand and a practiced smile. "It's lovely to meet you, Ethan. Marcus has told me so many interesting things." Ethan shook her hand, noting her firm grip. "All lies, I'm sure." They settled into an easy conversation about Boston, the restaurant, and innocuous topics that revealed little about any of them. Vanessa was beautiful and poised, laughing at the right moments and asking questions that showed she'd been briefed on his basic biography. "So pharmaceuticals," she said when their appetizers arrived. "That must be fascinating." Ethan provided his standard description of his work, omitting that he owned the company. "It has its moments. What about you?" "I'm in marketing for a cosmetics brand." "Nothing as important as medicine, but I like to think we help people feel more confident." The evening proceeded exactly as dozens of similar setups had before. Vanessa was attractive, intelligent, and engaging. She was also clearly evaluating him as a potential partner, measuring his responses against some internal checklist. There was nothing wrong with her, but Ethan felt the familiar emptiness of a connection that existed on paper, but not in reality. Halfway through the main course, Vanessa's phone chimed. She glanced at it and her expression shifted. "I'm so sorry, but I need to take this. It's my roommate." She stepped away from the table, leaving Ethan with Marcus and Claire, who exchanged glances. "She's great, right?" Claire asked eagerly. Ethan nodded noncommittally. "She seems very nice." Marcus rolled his eyes. "Nice. That's what you say about your grandmother's fruitcake." Before Ethan could respond, Vanessa returned, her expression troubled. "I'm really sorry, but I need to go. My roommate is at the emergency room with one of her patients. The child's parents are out of town, and she needs to bring some paperwork to our apartment for the temporary guardianship." "Is everything okay?" Claire asked. "Yes, but she's having trouble getting a rideshare at this hour from the hospital. I should go help her." "I can drive you," Ethan offered automatically. "I have my car here." Vanessa looked uncertain. "That's really kind, but I couldn't impose." "It's no imposition. It sounds urgent." Marcus gave Ethan a significant look that clearly said, "Don't blow this opportunity." Ethan ignored him. "If you're sure," Vanessa said, gathering her purse. "I really am sorry about this." Claire waved away her apology. "Go, help your roommate. We'll do this again soon." Outside, the valet brought Ethan's Aston Martin around. He saw Vanessa's eyes widen slightly but was grateful she didn't comment. He opened the passenger door for her, then slid behind the wheel. "Boston Children's Hospital," she directed. "My roommate Mia is a pediatric nurse there." The drive was brief, with Vanessa filling the silence by explaining that her roommate sometimes became particularly attached to certain patients. "This little boy, Aiden, has leukemia. His parents had to fly to Chicago for a family emergency, and Mia volunteered to be his temporary guardian while they're gone." Ethan was surprised by the warmth in her voice. This seemed more genuine than anything she'd shared at dinner. They pulled up to the emergency entrance, where a woman in scrubs paced anxiously. When she spotted Vanessa, relief washed over her face. "That's Mia," Vanessa said, already opening her door. Ethan parked and followed, intending only to ensure they were safely on their way. The woman turned toward them, and Ethan felt a sudden jolt of recognition, though he was certain they'd never met. She was striking rather than conventionally beautiful, with dark hair pulled back in a messy bun and eyes that seemed too large for her face. Exhaustion lined her features, but there was something compelling about her intensity. Thank God," she said, hugging Vanessa quickly. "Aiden's fever spiked and the on-call doctor wanted to admit him. The guardianship papers are on my desk, but I can't leave him." "That's why we're here," Vanessa said. "This is Ethan. He drove me." Mia glanced at him, distracted. "Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt your evening." "No need to apologize," Ethan said. "Is there anything I can do to help?" She seemed surprised by the offer. "Actually, if you wouldn't mind waiting with Vanessa while I check on Aiden one more time. The papers are in a blue folder." "Of course." She disappeared through the sliding doors, leaving Ethan and Vanessa in the chilly night air. "She's amazing with these kids," Vanessa said softly. "Sometimes I think she cares too much." "That seems like the right amount to care," Ethan replied. Mia reappeared moments later. "He's stable. The resident is with him now." She turned to Ethan. "I'm sorry, but would it be possible for you to drive us to our apartment? It's not far, but getting a car at this hour." "I'd be happy to," Ethan said, surprising himself with his eagerness. The ride to their apartment was brief, with Mia providing directions from the back seat. When they arrived, she rushed inside, returning moments later with a blue folder. "Thank you so much," she said to Ethan. "I can get a hospital shuttle back." "I'll drive you," he said before he could reconsider. Vanessa looked between them, a slight frown creasing her brow. "I should come too." "No need," Mia said. "You have work tomorrow." "I'm already on shift, so I'll be there all night anyway." After a moment's hesitation, Vanessa agreed. She kissed Mia's cheek and squeezed Ethan's arm. "Thank you for being so understanding. Rain, check on dinner, of course," he said automatically. As they drove back to the hospital, Mia clutched the folder like a lifeline. "I'm really sorry about this. Not exactly how you plan to spend your evening, I imagine." "Honestly, it's refreshing. Most of my evenings are predictable." She studied him in the dim light of the dashboard. "So you work in pharmaceuticals with Marcus, something like that." The familiar half-truth slipped out before he could reconsider. "Must be interesting. My dad was a pharmacist before he retired." "What made you choose nursing?" Her expression softened. "I had cancer when I was 12. The nurses were the ones who made me feel human during treatment, especially my primary nurse, Helen. She's why I specifically wanted to work in pediatric oncology." The simple honesty of her answer caught him off guard. "That's remarkable," she shrugged. "Not really, just paying it forward." When they reached the hospital, Ethan found himself reluctant for the evening to end. "Will Aiden be okay?" Mia's exhaustion showed in the slump of her shoulders. "We hope so. He's responding well to treatment, but these infections can be dangerous with his compromised immune system." "Is there anything he needs? Anything I could help with?" She looked genuinely surprised. "That's very kind, but we have it covered." She hesitated. "Though if you really want to help, the children's ward always needs new books and games. Things get pretty germy around here." "I'll remember that." He handed her a business card. "If you think of anything else, don't hesitate to call." She examined the card, which listed only his name and personal number. "Thank you, Ethan, and I'm sorry again about your date." "Don't be." This was much more meaningful than another dinner conversation about Boston weather. She smiled then, a genuine expression that transformed her tired face, and Ethan felt that strange jolt again. "Good night, then." He watched her walk through the hospital doors, wondering why he suddenly felt more alive than he had in months. The following morning, Ethan found himself thinking about Mia as he reviewed quarterly reports in his office. Her dedication and the genuine care she'd shown for her patient had left an impression. He was still contemplating this when his assistant announced Marcus's arrival. "So," Marcus demanded the moment he entered. Vanessa's great, right? When are you seeing her again? Ethan leaned back in his chair. She seems nice, but I didn't feel a connection. You didn't even finish dinner. How could you possibly know? Sometimes you just know, Ethan said. Besides, I spent more time with her roommate than with her. Marcus's eyebrows shot up. The nurse. Claire mentioned her, said she's brilliant but married to her job. She's dedicated, there's a difference. Marcus studied him with growing interest. Hold on, are you into the roommate? I barely know her, Ethan protested too quickly. But you want to know her better. It wasn't a question. Ethan sighed. I don't know. There was something about her. She was real in a way most people aren't with me. Because she has no idea you're Ethan O'Connor, pharmaceutical tycoon. She just met a guy named Ethan who gave her a ride. The truth of this statement made Ethan uncomfortable. Which is why nothing can happen. The moment she discovers who I really am, she'll see me differently. Marcus shook his head. You know, for a brilliant businessman, you can be incredibly stupid about personal relationships. Not everyone is after your money. Experience suggests otherwise. Experience with the wrong people. Look, if you're interested in the roommate, pursue it. Just be honest from the start. Ethan's phone chimed with a meeting reminder. I need to go. Board meeting in 10. Think about what I said, Marcus called as Ethan gathered his materials. Ethan did think about it, all through the meeting and into the evening as he toured a potential new laboratory site. He thought about Mia's dedication, her wry smile, the way exhaustion hadn't diminished her compassion. When he returned to his penthouse that night, he made an impulsive decision. He called a high-end toy store and arranged for a delivery of books, games, and puzzles to the pediatric oncology ward at Boston Children's Hospital. He included a simple note, "For Aiden and friends. Hope these help pass the time. Ethan." It wasn't much, but it felt like a step toward something authentic. Mia was checking Aiden's vitals when an orderly arrived with several large boxes. Delivery for the pediatric oncology ward, he announced. She finished recording Aiden's temperature before investigating. The boxes contained brand new games, puzzles, and books, dozens of them still in their packaging. What's all this? Dr. Reynolds asked, stopping by the nurse's station. Mia found a card attached to one box and read it aloud. For Aiden and friends, hope these help pass the time. Ethan. Ethan. Aiden perked up from his bed. The 7-year-old had been listless since his parents' departure, despite Mia's best efforts to keep his spirits up. Is that for me? It looks like it is, Mia said, bringing a puzzle and several books to his bedside. Do you know an Ethan? Aiden shook his head, already examining the puzzle with interest. Can we open it now? As Mia helped Aiden with the puzzle, she wondered about the mysterious Ethan who had sent such a thoughtful gift. It couldn't be Vanessa's date from the previous night, could it? She hadn't even mentioned Aiden's name to him. Her shift ended at 7, and she headed home, exhausted but satisfied. Aiden's fever had broken, and the new games had lifted the spirits of all the children on the floor. When she entered the apartment, Vanessa was waiting with pizza and an expectant expression. So, Vanessa said, Ethan texted me. Mia froze in the process of removing her shoes. Oh, he apologized again for the interrupted date and asked if we could reschedule. That's nice, Mia said carefully, ignoring the strange disappointment she felt. It is, except I got the distinct impression he was more interested in you than me. Mia scoffed. That's ridiculous. He barely met me. Sometimes that's all it takes. Besides, he asked about Aiden. How would he even remember the child's name unless he was paying very close attention? Mia thought of the delivery. Actually, he sent a bunch of games and books to the ward today, for Aiden and the other kids. Vanessa's eyes widened. He did. That's not typical first date behavior. Maybe he's just a nice person. Maybe, Vanessa agreed, Or maybe he's interested in the person who inspired the gesture. Mia shook her head. V, don't start. Even if he were interested, which he's not, I don't have time for dating, especially not with someone who's clearly right for you. Except he's not. We had zero chemistry, which was obvious even before your emergency. But you two had something, I could see it. You're imagining things. Am I? Then why did he ask for your number? Mia almost dropped her pizza. He what? He texted to ask if he could have your number. Said he wanted to check on Aiden. And you gave it to him? Mia couldn't decide if she was annoyed or intrigued. Of course not. I told him I'd pass along his number and let you decide. Mia set down her food, appetite forgotten. This is ridiculous. He doesn't even know me. But he wants to, Vanessa countered, handing Mia a slip of paper. His number. Use it or don't, but I think you should. Mia stared at the paper. It had been so long since she'd felt a connection with someone that she wasn't sure she'd recognize it if it happened. But there had been something in Ethan's eyes when he'd offered to help, a sincerity that had caught her off guard. I'll think about it, she said finally, tucking the paper into her pocket. That night, as she prepared for bed, she took out the number and added it to her contacts. She didn't text him, but having the option made her smile. Ethan was reviewing acquisition proposals when his phone buzzed with an unknown number. His heart rate quickened irrationally. Hello, is this Ethan? The voice was hesitant but familiar. Yes, is this Mia? A pause. Yes. I hope it's okay that I called. Vanessa gave me your number. I'm glad she did. Is everything all right? How's Aiden? He's doing much better. His fever broke and his parents will be back tomorrow. Another pause. I wanted to thank you for the games and books. The entire ward is enjoying them. It was nothing, Ethan said, though the warmth in her voice made it feel like something significant. It wasn't nothing to the kids, or to me. She cleared her throat. Anyway, I just wanted to say thank you, and I'm sorry again about interrupting your date. Actually, I was hoping we could talk about that, Ethan said before he could reconsider. I enjoyed meeting you, even under those circumstances. I was wondering if you might want to have coffee sometime. The silence stretched long enough that Ethan thought she might have hung up. Finally, she spoke. Are you asking me out? What about Vanessa? Vanessa is lovely, but we both agreed there wasn't a connection. I felt something different when I met you. Another pause. I don't date much. My schedule is unpredictable. Mine too, Ethan said, but I'd like to try. If you're interested. Coffee, she said eventually. I could do coffee. I'm off on Thursday morning. They arranged to meet at a cafe near the hospital, and when Ethan hung up, he realized he was smiling. Then reality intruded. He still hadn't told her who he really was. Marcus's advice echoed in his mind. Be honest from the start. But would she still want to have coffee with Ethan O'Connor, billionaire CEO, rather than just Ethan, the guy who worked in pharmaceuticals? He decided to tell her at the cafe. Face to face, where she could see his sincerity. It was the right thing to do. Thursday arrived with unexpected September warmth. Mia chose a simple sundress, feeling slightly self-conscious. It had been months since she'd been on a date, if that's what this was. The cafe was busy with morning commuters when she arrived. She spotted Ethan immediately, seated at a corner table with 2 cups already waiting. He stood when he saw her, and she was struck again by his presence. He wasn't conventionally handsome, but his features were strong and his eyes intelligent. I hope I got your order right, he said when she reached the table. Vanessa mentioned you like lattes. You asked Vanessa about my coffee preference. Mia was both amused and touched by the gesture. I wanted to get it right, he admitted, though now I realize that might seem presumptuous. It's thoughtful, she corrected, taking a sip. And perfect. They fell into surprisingly easy conversation. Ethan asked about her work, listening intently as she described her patients and the challenges of pediatric oncology. It must be difficult, emotionally, he observed. Sometimes. But the victories make it worthwhile. Seeing a child ring the remission bell is one of life's great joys. And Aiden, will he get to ring that bell? The genuine concern in his voice touched her. We hope so. His prognosis is good, but there's still a long road ahead. Is there anything else I can do? For him or the other children? Mia studied him over her coffee. Why do you care so much? You don't know these kids. Ethan looked away briefly. When I was young, my sister was diagnosed with a rare blood disorder. She spent months in and out of hospitals. The nurses were her lifeline and ours. I never forgot that. I didn't know you had a sister. Elizabeth, she's healthy now, living in London with her husband and daughter. He smiled faintly. She's the creative one in the family, designs children's clothing. The personal revelation shifted something between them. Mia found herself sharing more about her own childhood illness, details she rarely discussed. The worst part was feeling like a burden, she admitted. My parents never made me feel that way, but I knew the financial strain of my treatment was enormous. That's part of why I became a nurse, to help families navigate not just the medical aspects, but the emotional and financial ones too. Ethan nodded, looking troubled. Healthcare costs are criminal. It's one of the issues I feel strongly about in my work. What exactly do you do in pharmaceuticals? Development? Research? Ethan set down his coffee, expression serious. Actually, that's something I wanted to discuss with you. I haven't been entirely forthcoming about my role. Mia felt a flicker of concern. Oh, I'm not just employed in pharmaceuticals. I own Horizon Pharmaceuticals. Mia blinked. The Horizon Pharmaceuticals, the company that makes, yes, that one. His expression was careful, watchful. She processed this information, understanding dawning. So you're not just successful, you're wealthy, yes. He looked uncomfortable. I should have been upfront from the beginning. I've just had experiences where people's perception of me changed once they knew about my financial situation. Mia sat back, taking this in. I can understand that. Though I'm not sure how I feel about starting with a half-truth. You're right, and I apologize. I wanted you to know the real me before the Billionaire label overshadowed everything else. Billionaire, Mia's eyes widened. I was thinking millionaire, maybe. Ethan winced. Sorry. Yes, technically billionaire, though most of that is tied up in the company. Mia laughed, a slightly hysterical edge to the sound. This is surreal. I'm having coffee with a billionaire who sent thousands of dollars worth of toys to my hospital ward. Is that a problem? He asked quietly. She considered the question seriously. I don't know. I've never dated someone with wealth disparities quite this astronomical. It would be easy to feel unbalanced. I understand that concern. But if it helps, when I met you, I didn't see a nurse or someone with less financial resources. I saw someone with more passion, dedication, and authenticity than most people I encounter. He leaned forward. I'd like the chance to see if there's something here, but only if you're comfortable with who I am, all aspects of who I am. Mia studied him, recognizing the sincerity in his expression. I appreciate your honesty, even if it was delayed. I'd like to get to know you better too, but I need you to understand that my work will always be my priority. I wouldn't expect anything less, and I won't be impressed by grand gestures or expensive gifts. What touched me about the books and games wasn't their cost, but the thoughtfulness behind them. Ethan smiled. Noted, though I hope small gestures are still permitted. Small gestures are encouraged, Mia said, returning his smile. Their coffee extended into a shared breakfast, and by the time Mia had to leave for her shift, they had made plans to see each other again. As they parted outside the cafe, Ethan hesitated. then gently touched her hand. "Thank you for giving me a chance, despite my less than perfect start." "Thank you for being honest, even if it was a little delayed," she replied. "And Ethan, next time I'm buying the coffee." He laughed, and the sound stayed with her throughout her day. Over the next few weeks, Ethan and Mia navigated the early stages of dating amidst their demanding schedules. They met for early breakfasts before her shifts and late dinners after his meetings. Sometimes, when their schedules aligned for longer periods, they explored Boston together, discovering shared interests in art, history, and quiet conversations. Mia introduced him to her favorite hidden parks and family-owned restaurants, while Ethan shared his love of classical music and sailing. They attended a symphony performance where Ethan knew several musicians, and Mia took him to a community art show featuring works by pediatric cancer patients. Throughout it all, Ethan was careful not to overwhelm her with his wealth. He drove his least ostentatious car, suggested restaurants within her budget when it was her turn to choose, and refrained from lavish gifts. Instead, he found other ways to show his growing feelings, leaving coffee at the nurse's station during her overnight shifts, remembering details about her patients, listening intently when she spoke about her day. For her part, Mia found herself increasingly drawn to his thoughtfulness and intellect. The financial disparity between them occasionally caused moments of discomfort, like when he casually mentioned his home in the Maldives, or when his assistant called during dinner about a multimillion-dollar decision that couldn't wait, but these moments were outweighed by the genuine connection they were building. One evening in early October, they were walking along the Charles River after dinner when Ethan brought up Thanksgiving. "I was wondering if you might join me for the holiday," he said cautiously. "My family gathers at our house in Vermont. It's nothing fancy, just my parents, my sister, and her family." "Nothing fancy, just a family compound in Vermont," Mia teased, bumping her shoulder against his. Ethan laughed. "It's a nice house, I admit, but Thanksgiving is very normal. My mother overcooks the turkey, my father falls asleep watching football, and Elizabeth's daughter runs everyone ragged." Mia hesitated. "That sounds lovely, but I usually volunteer to work the holiday so nurses with families can be home." "I understand," Ethan said, though disappointment shadowed his face. "It's one of the things I admire about you. But," she continued, "I was planning to take Christmas off this year. Maybe we could spend some time together then." His expression brightened. "I'd like that very much." As they continued walking, their hands found each other naturally. The simple contact felt significant, a bridge between their different worlds. "There's something else I wanted to discuss," Ethan said after a moment. "My company is launching a new initiative, affordable medications for pediatric cancer patients. I'd value your input on the program." Mia stopped walking. "Are you serious?" "Completely. We've been developing the framework for months, but I realized after meeting you that we need input from the people on the front lines: nurses, patients, families. Would you be willing to consult?" "Consult?" "Ethan, I would be honored. That's incredible." "It's just good business," he said, though his expression revealed it was much more than that. "No, it's good humanity. There's a difference." She squeezed his hand. "And it means more than you know." That night, as Ethan drove her home, Mia realized something had shifted between them. What had begun as a surprising connection was deepening into something that scared and excited her in equal measure. At her door, he kissed her goodnight, a gentle kiss that carried promise without pressure. "Good night, Mia." "Good night, Ethan." She watched him drive away, wondering how this man who lived in such a different world had come to feel so essential to her own. As October turned to November, Ethan found himself restructuring his schedule to maximize time with Mia. Board meetings were condensed. International calls were scheduled to accommodate her shifts, and business trips shortened or postponed when possible. His executive team noticed the change, though none commented directly. The pediatric medication initiative moved forward rapidly, with Mia providing invaluable insights that shaped its direction. She arranged focus groups with families, connected him with hospital administrators, and offered practical suggestions that transformed theoretical plans into workable solutions. "You've revolutionized our approach," Ethan told her one evening as they reviewed the program guidelines in his office. The board unanimously approved the expanded funding. "That's wonderful news," Mia said, her smile radiant. "This will help so many families." "It's all because of you. Your perspective changed everything." He hesitated. "I'd like you to be officially recognized when we announce the program next month." Mia shook her head. "That's not necessary. I'm just glad to help." "It is necessary. Your contributions have been substantial." He took her hand. "Besides, I'm proud of what we've accomplished together." "I'd like others to know." She studied their joined hands. "It still feels strange sometimes being in your world." "Is that a bad thing?" "Not bad. Just different. Last week, I treated a child whose family is fundraising for his medication your company manufactures. The disparity is jarring." Ethan nodded solemnly. "That's exactly why this initiative matters, and why your perspective is so valuable. You see both sides." "I do," she agreed, "and I see you trying to bridge them." He lifted her hand to his lips. "For what it's worth, I feel equally disoriented in your world sometimes. The other day, when you showed me around the oncology ward and every child knew your name, I was in awe of the connection you've built with them. That kind of impact can't be bought or manufactured." The sincerity in his voice warmed her. "Thank you for saying that. I mean it. Your work changes lives in ways mine never could." They finished reviewing the proposal, and Ethan suggested dinner at a new restaurant nearby. As they walked, Mia's phone rang. She checked the display, then answered quickly. "Dr. Reynolds, is everything okay?" She listened intently, her expression growing serious. "I understand. Yes, I can be there in 30 minutes. When she ended the call, Ethan could read the news in her face. "Aiden." His latest scan showed new growth. "They're adjusting his treatment plan, but his parents are devastated. I should go be with them." "Of course. I'll drive you." During the drive, Mia was quiet, mentally preparing for what awaited her. Ethan respected her silence, offering his presence without demands. At the hospital, he parked but made no move to get out. "Would you like me to come in?" Mia hesitated. "These are private moments for families. I'm not sure I understand completely. I'll wait here in case you need anything." She touched his face gently. "No, go home. This could take hours, and you have that investor call in the morning. It can wait." "It can't, and you know it." She smiled faintly. "I'll call you tomorrow." He watched her walk into the hospital, her shoulders squaring as she prepared to support a family through one of their darkest moments. The depth of her compassion humbled him. 3 hours later, as he was reviewing documents for the morning call, his phone chimed with a text from Mia. "Just leaving now. Aiden settled. Parents coping as well as can be expected. Thank you for understanding." He replied immediately. "No thanks needed. Get some rest. Call tomorrow when you can." A moment later, another text arrived. "Actually, I could use a friend right now. Are you still awake?" Without hesitation, he responded. "Always for you." "Where are you?" "Hospital entrance." "On my way." He found her sitting on a bench outside the main doors, exhaustion evident in every line of her body. When she saw him, something in her expression cracked, and he sat beside her, pulling her into his arms as the tears she'd been holding back finally fell. "I'm sorry," she said against his shoulder. "I'm usually better at maintaining boundaries." "Don't apologize for caring," he murmured into her hair. "It's what makes you extraordinary." They sat together until her tears subsided. Then he drove her home, neither feeling the need to fill the silence with words. At her door, she looked up at him with red-rimmed eyes. "Thank you for coming when I called." "I always will," he promised, and they both recognized the weight of that commitment. He kissed her forehead gently. "Get some sleep. I'll check on you tomorrow." As he drove home in the early morning darkness, Ethan realized with sudden clarity that he was falling in love with her. The knowledge didn't surprise him so much as confirm what he'd been feeling for weeks. The next day, he sent a simple bouquet to her apartment with a note. "Thinking of you and Aiden today. Take all the time you need. I'm here." In the weeks that followed, their relationship deepened through shared challenges and quiet joys. Ethan attended a fundraiser for the pediatric oncology department, making a substantial anonymous donation, and spending the evening learning about the hospital's needs. Mia joined him for a business dinner where she charmed his executive team with her intelligence and warmth. They developed rhythms and routines Sunday mornings at a neighborhood cafe, late-night phone calls when they couldn't be together, little surprises that brightened difficult days. When Aiden showed improvement on his new treatment protocol, they celebrated with ice cream in the hospital garden. When Ethan closed a major acquisition, Mia brought champagne to his penthouse and toasted his success. Thanksgiving approached, and though Mia still planned to work, Ethan arranged to return early from Vermont to spend the evening with her after her shift. He brought leftovers from his family's meal and the warmth of their acceptance. "My mother wants to meet you," he told her as they ate pumpkin pie on her couch. "She says anyone who voluntarily works on Thanksgiving must be special." "And what did you tell her?" "That she has no idea just how special you are." He reached for her hand. "They all want to meet you at Christmas. If you're still willing to come." "I am," she said, surprising herself with how much she meant it. As Christmas approached, Mia found herself facing both excitement and anxiety about meeting Ethan's family. She'd learned more about them over the past weeks: his father, Robert, a retired surgeon; his mother, Catherine, a former literature professor; his sister, Elizabeth, and her husband, James, and their 5-year-old daughter, Olivia. "They sound lovely," she told Vanessa as they decorated their small apartment for the holidays. "But what if they think I'm not good enough for him?" Vanessa rolled her eyes. "Not possible. If anything, they'll wonder what took him so long to find someone as amazing as you. It's just a significant step, meeting the family of a billionaire at their Vermont estate." "Stop saying billionaire like it's his defining characteristic. From everything you've told me, his family values the same things you do: intelligence, compassion, making a difference." Mia knew her roommate was right, but the nervousness persisted. She and Ethan had been dating for nearly 3 months, and while their connection grew stronger each day, she occasionally still felt the gulf between their circumstances. The weekend before Christmas, Ethan invited her to his penthouse for dinner. She had been there several times before, but something about his invitation suggested this evening would be different. When she arrived, she found him in the kitchen, attempting to prepare dinner himself. "You're cooking?" she asked, amused by the sight of Ethan O'Connor, CEO and billionaire, frowning at a cookbook. "Attempting to," he admitted. "My mother insisted every O'Connor should know how to make her famous pasta sauce. Results may vary." Mia set down the wine she'd brought and moved beside him. "Let me help." Together, they completed the meal: a simple pasta with salad and garlic bread. The sauce was slightly overcooked but delicious nonetheless, and they laughed at Ethan's culinary adventure. After dinner, he led her to the living room where a fire crackled in the fireplace. The city lights spread below them through the floor-to-ceiling windows, Boston decked in holiday splendor. "I have something for you," he said, retrieving a small, wrapped package from his desk. "An early Christmas gift." Mia accepted it with surprise. "But we said we'd exchange gifts in Vermont." This one couldn't wait. His expression was a mixture of nervousness and excitement that intrigued her. She unwrapped the package carefully to find a velvet box. Inside was not jewelry, as she had momentarily feared, but a key. "A key?" she questioned, looking up at him. "To this apartment," he explained. "I'm not asking you to move in, I know that would be premature, but I wanted you to know that you're welcome here anytime, that this space is yours as much as mine whenever you want it." The gesture touched her deeply. It wasn't an extravagant gift, but a meaningful one, offering her access to his private world, his sanctuary. "Ethan, I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything. It's simply an open door whenever you choose to use it." He took her hands. "I love you, Mia. I think I've known it since that night at the hospital when you cared so deeply for a child who wasn't even yours. You've changed how I see the world, how I see my place in it." Tears pricked at her eyes. "I love you too. I've been afraid to say it, afraid that our different lives would eventually pull us apart. But these past months have shown me that what connects us is stronger than what separates us." He kissed her then, a kiss that promised a future neither of them had anticipated that night at the hospital. When they parted, he rested his forehead against hers. "Thank you for taking a chance on us." "Thank Vanessa," she said with a laugh. "Without her emergency call that night, we might never have met properly." "Remind me to send her something spectacular for Christmas," Ethan murmured, pulling Mia closer. 2 days before Christmas, they drove to Vermont in comfortable silence, holiday music playing softly as snow began to fall. The O'Connor family home was a sprawling farmhouse nestled among pines, beautifully restored but without the ostentation Mia had half expected. Catherine O'Connor met them at the door, a tall woman with Ethan's eyes and warm smile. "You must be Mia. We've heard so much about you." "All good things, I hope," Mia said, accepting Catherine's embrace. "My son has never been one to exaggerate, but in your case, I'm beginning to think he might have understated." The rest of the family welcomed her with equal warmth. Robert O'Connor was quieter than his wife but kind, with a dry wit that occasionally surfaced. Elizabeth resembled her mother but had her father's calm demeanor. Her husband James was friendly and unpretentious, clearly comfortable in the family dynamic. And Olivia was a whirlwind of energy who immediately took to Mia when she learned she worked with children. "You make sick kids better?" the little girl asked seriously. "I help doctors make them better," Mia explained. "Uncle Ethan said you're the best at it. He says you make everybody feel better, even him." Mia glanced at Ethan, who shrugged with a smile. "Just telling the truth." That evening, as the family gathered for dinner, Mia felt a sense of belonging she hadn't anticipated. The O'Connors were wealthy, yes, but their interactions revealed the same values she cherished: education, compassion, service to others. They spoke of Ethan's business with pride but were equally interested in Mia's work and her patience. After dinner, Elizabeth pulled Mia aside as the others prepared dessert. "I wanted to thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For seeing my brother. The real Ethan, not the CEO or the billionaire." Elizabeth's expression was serious. "He's been successful for so long that people forget there's a person behind the achievements. You don't do that." "He makes it easy to see the real him," Mia replied. "He's extraordinary, money aside." Elizabeth smiled. "That's exactly what he says about you." Christmas Eve brought a light snowfall that transformed the property into a winter wonderland. After a day of family traditions, baking cookies, selecting a tree from the property, decorating with ornaments that told the family's history, they gathered in the living room for gifts. Mia had agonized over what to give Ethan. What could she possibly offer that he couldn't buy himself? In the end, she chose something personal, a custom-bound collection of letters from families whose children she had nursed through illness, sharing how compassionate care had changed their experience. She had contacted them over the past month, explaining Ethan's medication initiative and how he was working to make treatment more accessible. When he opened it and realized what he was reading, his eyes grew suspiciously bright. "Mia, this is..." He seemed unable to find words. "I wanted you to see the impact of what you're doing," she explained, "and what we could do together." He kissed her in front of his family, a brief but emotional gesture. "It's perfect, thank you." His gift to her was equally thoughtful, a foundation established in her name to provide support for families of pediatric cancer patients, covering expenses insurance didn't. Transportation, housing near hospitals, childcare for siblings. The foundation would be independently operated but fully funded, with Mia as the guiding director whenever her schedule permitted. "You're giving me a foundation," she whispered, stunned. "I'm giving you the ability to help families the way you've always wanted to," he corrected. "No strings, no conditions. It's yours to direct as you see fit." She felt tears threatening. "This is too much." "It's exactly enough," Catherine interjected gently. "Ethan told us how often you worry about your patients' families and their financial struggles. Now you have a tool to address those concerns." Later that night, as they walked the snow-covered grounds, Mia tried again to express her gratitude. "I don't know how to thank you properly. The foundation. It's beyond anything I could have imagined." "Your face when I told you was all the thanks I needed," Ethan said, pulling her close against the cold. "Besides, it's somewhat selfish. Now I get to see you change even more lives." They stopped beneath a grove of pines, the house visible through the trees with its windows glowing warm against the night. "I love you," Mia said simply. Not the billionaire or the CEO, but the man who drives to hospitals at midnight and tries to cook his mother's pasta sauce and sees people for who they truly are. "And I love you, the woman who gives everything to her patients, who challenges my thinking, who makes me want to be worthy of her respect." He kissed her softly. "I never expected to find you, especially not through a double date gone awry." "I think it went exactly as it was meant to," Mia replied, smiling against his lips. Christmas morning arrived with more snow and the excited shrieks of Olivia discovering her gifts. The family opened presents in pajamas, then enjoyed a leisurely brunch before bundling up for sledding on the property's hills. Mia found herself laughing more than she had in years, caught up in the O'Connor family's genuine warmth and inclusion. That evening, as they prepared to return to Boston the following day, Ethan suggested a walk to see the stars. The night was clear and cold, the snow crunching beneath their boots as they followed a path to a small gazebo overlooking the valley. "I've been thinking about the future," Ethan said as they gazed at the star-filled sky. "Our future." Mia's heart quickened. "Oh, the past few months have shown me what I want for the rest of my life, who I want to share it with." He turned to face her, taking both her hands in his. "I know it might seem fast, but when something is right, you just know." Before she could respond, he dropped to one knee in the snow, still holding her hands. "Mia Nelson, you walked into my life by accident and changed everything by design. You make me better as a man, as a leader, as a human being. Would you do me the extraordinary honor of becoming my wife?" Mia felt tears freezing on her cheeks in the cold air. "Ethan, if it's too soon, I understand," he said quickly. "We can wait. I just wanted you to know how certain I am about us." She pulled him to his feet, laughing through her tears. "You didn't even let me answer." "Yes, Ethan. Yes, I will marry you." He enveloped her in his arms, lifting her briefly off her feet in his excitement. When he set her down, he reached into his pocket and produced a ring, a simple but stunning diamond set in platinum. "It was my grandmother's," he explained as he slid it onto her finger. "My mother gave it to me yesterday. She said she knew from the moment she met you that you were the one." "She did." Mia examined the ring, touched by its history and meaning. "I was so nervous about meeting your family. They adore you almost as much as I do." He kissed her again, both of them breathless with happiness. "Should we tell them tonight?" Mia nodded, unable to contain her smile. "Yes. And then I want to call Vanessa. She'll never believe her double-date disaster led to this." They returned to the house hand in hand, where the family was gathered around the fire playing board games. When Ethan announced their engagement, the room erupted in cheers and congratulations. Catherine embraced Mia with tears in her eyes, whispering, "Welcome to the family, dear one." Robert shook his son's hand, then surprised everyone by hugging Mia tightly. "You've brought back the light in his eyes," he said gruffly. "Thank you for that." Elizabeth insisted on champagne, and even Olivia was allowed a tiny sip in honor of gaining an official aunt. The celebration continued late into the night, with plans and possibilities flowing as freely as the champagne. When they finally retired to their room, Ethan pulled Mia into his arms. "Happy, completely," she assured him, "though I'm still trying to process how my life changed so dramatically in just a few months. Some connections defy explanation," he said, touching his forehead to hers. "I'm just grateful Marcus arranged that double date." "And that Aiden got a fever," Mia added with a smile. "And that you called Vanessa during our dinner. And that you offered to drive." Ethan kissed her softly. "A series of perfect accidents that led to the most intentional decision of my life." Later that night, as Ethan slept beside her, Mia gazed at her ring in the moonlight filtering through the window. She thought of the unlikely path that had brought them together, a billionaire and a nurse, connected by chance and bound by choice. Their worlds had seemed so different that first night, but now she understood they had always shared what mattered most: the desire to make a difference, to care deeply, to live authentically. In the morning, they would return to Boston and their busy lives. She would continue nursing children through their darkest hours, and he would lead his company with vision and purpose. But now they would do so together, their separate paths merging into a shared journey neither had anticipated, but both had somehow always been seeking. As she drifted toward sleep, Mia smiled at the beautiful unpredictability of life. Sometimes the wrong date led to the right person. Sometimes a midnight hospital visit changed everything. And sometimes, when you weren't looking for love at all, it found you anyway in the most unexpected and perfect way imaginable. Spring came early to Boston, bringing with it the preparations for their June wedding. Mia had initially suggested a small ceremony, conscious of Ethan's public profile and her own preference for intimacy. Ethan agreed wholeheartedly, and they planned a gathering at his family's Vermont home with only close friends and family in attendance. The months following their engagement had been busy ones. Mia continued her nursing work while also establishing the foundation Ethan had gifted her. With his guidance but without his interference, she built a team of dedicated professionals who shared her vision for supporting families through pediatric cancer treatment. Ethan, meanwhile, launched the medication initiative that Mia had helped shape. The program received national attention, not just for its generosity, but for its practical approach to addressing healthcare inequities. When interviewed, Ethan consistently credited Mia's influence and expertise, elevating her work in a way that made her both proud and slightly uncomfortable with the attention. Their personal lives merged gradually. Mia kept her apartment with Vanessa, but spent most nights at Ethan's penthouse, which slowly accumulated her books, her favorite tea mugs, and the comfortable throws she preferred for chilly evenings. They established rhythms and routines, accommodating each other's demanding schedules and creating spaces where they could simply be together. 2 weeks before the wedding, Mia was completing paperwork at the nurse's station when she heard a familiar voice. She looked up to see Aiden's parents, Jessica and Michael, approaching with bright smiles. "We just got the results," Jessica said, tears in her eyes. "Aiden's scans are clear. The doctor says he's in remission." Mia came around the desk to embrace them both. "That's wonderful news. I knew he could do it." "We wanted you to be among the first to know," Michael said, "and to thank you for everything. The care, the support, the foundation assistance with our mortgage payments when I had to reduce my work hours." "That's what the foundation is for," Mia said, thinking of how many families they'd been able to help already. "Aiden is the real hero here. Speaking of our hero, he's waiting to ring the bell. He asked specifically if you would be there." Mia checked her watch. Her shift had technically ended, but this was a moment she wouldn't miss. "Let me just grab my things." They found Aiden in his room, sitting on the edge of his bed in regular clothes rather than a hospital gown, looking both nervous and excited. "Nurse Mia," he exclaimed when he saw her. "Did Mom tell you? I get to ring the bell." "She did tell me, and I wouldn't miss it for anything." Mia knelt to his level. "How do you feel?" "Happy, and a little scared." At 8 years old, Aiden had developed a wisdom beyond his years during his cancer journey. "Scared is okay," Mia assured him. "It's a big change, but you've got this." The bell-ringing ceremony was a tradition on the oncology floor, a powerful moment when a child completing treatment rang a special bell mounted on the wall, signifying their victory. Staff gathered in the hallway as Aiden approached the bell, his parents on either side. He rang it 3 times, clear and strong, and the hallway erupted in cheers. Mia felt tears on her cheeks as she applauded, remembering her own bell-ringing moment 20 years earlier. Some cycles were meant to be completed. As the celebration continued, she felt her phone vibrate with a text from Ethan. "Just heard about Aiden from Dr. Reynolds. Wish I could be there to see his moment. Give him my congratulations." She smiled, touched that he remembered and cared. "Will do." "He's beaming. One of the good days in this job." His response came quickly. "Celebrate tonight, I'll cook. Or attempt to. Perfect. See you at 7. Later that evening, as they shared the meal Ethan had prepared with only minor culinary disasters, Mia recounted Aiden's bell-ringing ceremony. "These are the moments that make everything worthwhile," she said. "Seeing a child beat the odds, knowing they have their whole life ahead of them." Ethan reached across the table for her hand. "You helped make that possible, not just through your nursing but through the foundation too." His parents could focus on his treatment instead of their mortgage. "We made that possible," she corrected. "You're funding my direction. It's a good partnership." "The best," he agreed. "Which reminds me I have something to show you." He retrieved a folder from his desk and handed it to her. Inside were plans for building a comprehensive support center for pediatric cancer families, to be built adjacent to Boston Children's Hospital. "What is this?" Mia asked, scanning the detailed blueprints. "The next phase of your foundation's work. A place where families can stay during treatment, receive counseling, access resources, and connect with others going through the same experience." He looked almost nervous. "If you approve, of course, it would be your project entirely." Mia studied the plans with growing excitement. "This is extraordinary, but the cost must be astronomical." "It is," he acknowledged. "But I've spoken with several other business leaders who want to contribute. Your foundation's early success has attracted attention. This would be a collaborative effort, though you would guide its development. It's perfect, she said, looking up at him with shining eyes. Everything these families need in one place. There's one other detail, he added. I thought we might name it after your nurse, the one who helped you through your own treatment. Helen, was it? The thoughtfulness of this gesture overwhelmed her. The Helen Brooks Family Center, she said softly. She would have loved that. Then it's settled. Ethan moved to kneel beside her chair. Consider it my wedding gift to you and to all the families who need what we can provide together. Mia touched his face gently. How did I get so lucky? I ask myself the same question every day, he replied, turning to kiss her palm. The wedding day dawned clear and perfect in Vermont. The O'Connor home had been transformed with simple, elegant decorations, wildflowers from the property, twinkling lights in the trees, and a canopy on the lawn where the ceremony would take place. In a guest bedroom that had become the bridal suite, Mia sat at the vanity as Vanessa adjusted her veil. Her dress was uncomplicated but beautiful, a sleeveless silk gown that flowed gracefully to the floor. You look stunning, Vanessa said, stepping back to admire her work. Ethan won't know what hit him. I still can't believe this is happening, Mia admitted. Sometimes it feels like a dream. The good kind, I hope. Catherine O'Connor entered the room with a small box in her hands. The very best kind, Mia assured her future mother-in-law. I brought something for you, Catherine said, opening the box to reveal a delicate pearl bracelet. It was my mother's and her mother's before that. All the O'Connor brides have worn it. Now it's yours. As Catherine fastened the bracelet around Mia's wrist, Vanessa discreetly slipped out, leaving the two women alone. Thank you, Mia said, touching the pearls gently. Not just for this, but for welcoming me so completely. My dear, you've brought such joy to Ethan. He was always successful, always respected, but never truly happy until you. As a mother, I couldn't ask for more. Catherine's eyes grew misty. Now, are you ready to marry my son? Mia nodded, her own eyes filling with tears. More than ready. Downstairs, Ethan waited beneath the canopy with his father beside him as best man. The small gathering of guests, Mia's parents and brother, colleagues from the hospital, Ethan's executive team, and a few close friends watched as Vanessa walked down the aisle first, followed by Elizabeth. Then the music changed, and everyone rose as Mia appeared at the end of the aisle on her father's arm. Ethan felt his breath catch at the sight of her, radiant, serene, and smiling directly at him as if no one else existed. Their vows were simple and heartfelt, promises to support each other's dreams, to face challenges together, to build a life of purpose and joy. When they exchanged rings, Mia's hands trembled slightly, and Ethan steadied them with his own, a small gesture that seemed to embody their relationship. I now pronounce you husband and wife, the officiant declared. You may kiss the bride. Their kiss was gentle but filled with promise, and the small gathering erupted in applause. As they turned to face their loved ones as a married couple, Ethan leaned close to whisper, "Ready for our adventure, Mrs. O'Connor." "Lead the way, Mr. O'Connor," she replied, squeezing his hand. The reception was joyful and intimate, with dinner served under the stars and dancing on a temporary floor set up on the lawn. Ethan and Mia moved between guests, accepting congratulations and sharing their happiness. During a quiet moment, Marcus found them near the edge of the dance floor. "I'd say my double-date plan worked out pretty well," he said with a grin. "Just not with the original participants," Ethan laughed. "Details, details." Marcus raised his glass. "To the best mistake I ever made as a matchmaker." Later, as the evening wound down, Ethan led Mia away from the celebration toward the gazebo where he had proposed. "I have one more surprise for you," he said as they reached the structure. now lit with tiny lights that mimicked the stars above. "Ethan, you've given me so much already." "This is different, a promise." He took both her hands in his. "I know we've talked about the future in general terms, but I want to be specific about one aspect." Mia felt her heart quicken. "What aspect?" "Family, children." His expression was earnest. "I know your work is demanding, and mine is too, but I want you to know that whenever you're ready, if you're ready, I want to build a family with you, and I promise to be a true partner in that endeavor." Mia felt tears threaten again. "I want that too. Not immediately, perhaps, but someday." "Someday is perfect." He kissed her softly. "No pressure, no timeline. Just the knowledge that when we're ready, we'll take that step together." They returned to the reception hand in hand, joining their guests for the final dances of the evening. As Mia looked around at the faces of those they loved, her parents chatting with Robert O'Connor, Vanessa laughing with Marcus, hospital colleagues mingling with business associates, she felt a profound sense of wholeness. Two worlds that had once seemed impossibly distant had merged into something new and beautiful. The nurse and the billionaire, the caregiver and the executive, two people who might never have met if not for a double date gone wonderfully wrong. Epilogue: 5 years later, Mia stood at the entrance of the Helen Brooks Family Center, watching as families arrived for the annual holiday celebration. The center had been operating for 3 years now, providing support to hundreds of families facing pediatric cancer. What had begun as Ethan's wedding gift to her had grown into a nationally recognized program that other cities were beginning to replicate. "There's the visionary herself," a voice said behind her, and Mia turned to see Dr. Reynolds approaching. "The place looks wonderful, Mia." "Thank you." The volunteers outdid themselves with the decorations this year. They walked together through the main hall, which had been transformed into a winter wonderland. Children, both patients and siblings, darted between activities, decorating cookies, making ornaments, writing letters to Santa. "How's Aiden doing?" Mia asked. The boy had been cancer-free for 5 years now, a significant milestone. "Thriving. He's on the soccer team getting good grades. His mother says he still talks about being a doctor someday." "I'm not surprised. He always had that caring spirit." Mia smiled, remembering the frightened 7-year-old who had inadvertently changed her life. "And how are your little ones?" Dr. Reynolds asked, growing too fast. Mia's hand instinctively went to her slightly rounded stomach, where their third child was just beginning to show. "Emma's 4 going on 40, so serious about everything. And James is a typical 2-year-old tornado of energy. Following in their father's footsteps already. Emma certainly has his business sense. She tried to negotiate a higher allowance for picking up her toys." They both laughed, and Mia excused herself to check on the catering. As she crossed the room, she spotted a familiar figure entering with 2 small children in tow. Ethan was carrying James, their son's arms wrapped tightly around his neck, while Emma walked beside him, her hand firmly in his. When they spotted Mia, both children broke into delighted grins. "Mommy," Emma called, rushing forward. "Daddy let us bring the presents for the children." Mia knelt to embrace her daughter, then stood to accept a kiss from Ethan and a more exuberant one from James. "Everything looks amazing," Ethan said, looking around the decorated space. "The board was right to put you in charge of this place." "The board is biased," Mia replied with a smile. "The chairman is married to the executive director." "Sheer coincidence," Ethan insisted, shifting James to his other arm. "They simply recognized exceptional talent." In the 5 years since their wedding, Ethan and Mia had built a life that balanced their professional passions with their growing family. Ethan had restructured his company to allow more time at home, while Mia divided her energy between the family center and part-time nursing shifts that kept her connected to patient care. Their home, a compromise between Ethan's preference for urban luxury and Mia's for practical comfort, was a spacious brownstone in a family-friendly neighborhood, close enough to both the hospital and Ethan's office to minimize commutes. They maintained the Vermont property for family gatherings and occasional escapes from city life. "Vanessa and Marcus just texted," Ethan said as they moved through the celebration. "They're running late." Apparently, getting twins ready for an outing is more complicated than negotiating international trade agreements. Mia laughed. Their friends had begun dating 2 years after the wedding and were now parents to 6-month-old twin girls. Marcus still claimed credit for bringing Ethan and Mia together, though he admitted the specific outcome had not been his intention. As the party progressed, Mia found herself watching Ethan with their children helping Emma make an ornament, bouncing James on his knee during the puppet show, answering endless questions with infinite patience. For all his business acumen and wealth, his greatest pride was clearly his family. Later, as they prepared to leave, Aiden and his parents arrived. The 12-year-old was tall now, with only the faintest scar on his arm to hint at the port that had once delivered his chemotherapy. "Nurse Mia," he called, still using her professional title though she had not been his nurse for years. "Mom said you might be here." "I wouldn't miss it," she assured him, accepting his hug. "How's middle school treating you?" "It's okay. Science is my favorite. I'm doing a project on cancer treatments." He looked past her to Ethan. "Hi, Mr. O'Connor. Did you bring the twins?" Ethan laughed. "James and Emma aren't twins, Aiden. James is 2 years younger." "Oh, right. Can I show Emma the microscope station? They have real blood cells." With parental permission, Aiden led an eager Emma toward the science area, leaving the adults to catch up. "He's really set on medical school," Jessica said proudly. "Says he wants to find better treatments, ones that don't make kids so sick." "A worthy goal," Ethan agreed. "When he's ready for college, let me know. I'd be happy to connect him with our scholarship program." As the evening wound down, Mia found herself standing with Ethan at the center's entrance, waving goodbye to departing families. Emma had fallen asleep against her father's shoulder and James was drowsy in Mia's arms. "Successful event, Mrs. O'Connor," Ethan said softly. "Couldn't have done it without you, Mr. O'Connor." She leaned against him, feeling the familiar comfort of his presence. "Did you ever imagine this is where we'd end up when Marcus arranged that double date?" "Not specifically," he admitted. "But I knew from the moment I saw you at the hospital that night that my life was about to change." He shifted Emma gently. "We should get these two home." Outside, their driver waited with the family SUV that had replaced Ethan's sportier vehicles. As they settled the children into their car seats, Mia felt a wave of contentment wash over her. "Happy?" Ethan asked as they pulled away from the center, the question he still asked regularly even after years together. "Completely," she assured him, reaching for his hand. "You, more than I ever thought possible." He brought her hand to his lips. "Best wrong date of my life." "Best emergency hospital visit of mine," she countered with a smile. As they drove home through the snowy Boston evening, Mia reflected on the unexpected journey that had brought them here. From a chance meeting during a medical emergency to building a family and a foundation together, their path had been anything but conventional. Yet for all the external differences that might have separated them, wealth, background, professional worlds, they had discovered what truly mattered. Shared values, mutual respect, and a love that grew stronger with each passing year. The billionaire and the nurse. An unlikely pairing that had become the most natural thing in the world.